Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to Biblical Reality Check. Today we're going to be looking at one of the shorter parables that Jesus tells, the parable of the revealed light. This parable appears in Matthew 5, verses 14 to 16, Mark 5, verses 21 to 22, and Luke 8, verses 16 to 18. The version we're going to be using for this video is the one found in Luke, which reads as follows. No one, when he has lit a lamp, covers it with a vessel or puts it under a bed, but sets it on a lampstand, that those who enter may see the light. For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light. Therefore, take heed how you hear, for whoever has, to him more will be given, and whoever does not have, even what he seems to have, will be taken from him. This parable appears directly after the parable of the sower in both the books of Mark and Luke, which makes a lot of sense because the sower parable explains how truth enters the human psyche and becomes integrated into a human life. And this parable tells us that once truth is fully integrated, it expresses itself naturally. This parable represents the second stage of awakening. The seed has been planted. Now the light begins to shine. In the ancient world, a lamp wasn't used for decoration. It was all about survival. Light was necessary for orientation. It was the difference between wandering in darkness and knowing where to go. Jesus says, quote, "No one, when he has lit a lamp, covers it with a vessel or puts it under a bed, but sets it on a lampstand, that those who enter may see the light," unquote, and thereby know where to go. Because light has one purpose: to reveal your surroundings. Light is used as a symbol of revelation throughout the Old Testament and the New. Its very nature is to uncover, to make visible, to bring what is hidden into awareness. This is why Scripture consistently uses light to signify divine revelation and awakened perception. Genesis opens with, "Let there be light," the first act that makes creation intelligible. The psalmist declares, "Your word is a lamp to my feet," describing guidance and orientation. And Isaiah proclaims, "Arise, shine, for your light has come," announcing the arrival of spiritual illumination. In all these passages, light represents the awakening of consciousness, the movement from obscurity to clarity, from unawareness to understanding. Jesus uses light in the same symbolic way in this parable, but he intensifies the image. The lamp must be placed on a stand so it can illuminate everyone in the house. In other words, awareness is not meant to be hidden or partial. It's meant to permeate the entire inner life. This is not about evangelism. It's about inner architecture. When Jesus speaks of a house, he is using a familiar biblical image for the inner life, the place where awareness, intention, and identity reside. In John 14, verse 2, Jesus says, quote, "In my Father's house there are many rooms." Read through the lens of consciousness, those rooms can be understood as the different layers of the human interior, what we are aware of, what lies beneath awareness, what we avoid, what still needs healing, and what is capable of awakening. When the lamp is lifted, its light is no longer confined to one space. It reaches every room. This is the process of integration, when truth does not merely inform the mind, but illuminates the whole inner house. The lamp on the stand is the self choosing to see. It is what Carl Jung called individuation. Individuation is a lifelong process of integrating the subconscious parts of the mind with our conscious ego as the means for unifying the fragmented self. It is how we become our true, undivided selves. Jesus continues, "For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light." This isn't a threat, it's a description of consciousness. As we said, light reveals, that's its nature. In the Old Testament, God is described as the one who brings hidden things into light. For example, Daniel 2, verse 22 says, "He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him." Job 12, verse 22 says, "He reveals the deep things of darkness and brings deep shadows into light." And Ecclesiastes 12, verse 14 says, "For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil." In Jungian psychology, this is the inevitability of the shadow surfacing. It is the moment the unconscious becomes conscious, when something previously hidden steps into view. What is repressed returns. What is denied demands expression. Awakening is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming transparent. The lamp reveals not to condemn, but to liberate. That's what Jesus is saying in John 8, verse 32, when he tells us, "And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." As I have discussed in previous videos, Carl Jung talked about the shadow self, which is the suppressed, hidden part of the psyche containing our fears, traumas, and unlived potential. If ignored, the shadow self acts autonomously, sabotaging our lives. Bringing it to light requires profound self observation, truth, and humility. But until we bring our hidden, repressed, and instinctual drives into our conscious awareness, they dictate our choices without us knowing they are dictating them. And far too often, we mistake the resulting consequences for destiny, according to Jung. In neuroscience, this process of bringing the non conscious into conscious awareness is the prefrontal cortex activating, the moment you see your own patterns instead of being run by them. When the prefrontal cortex activates, it means it is working to regulate thoughts, emotions, and actions. This activation enhances goal directed behaviors while filtering out irrelevant information, sends signals to calm emotional centers while allowing for actions that are rational instead of impulsive, and processes information in your immediate awareness for purposes of problem solving. Psychology, neuroscience, and Jesus all tell us that awakening begins when you begin to notice. It is not and never was a matter of what you do. It is a matter of the condition of your psyche before doing what you do. The light, as Jesus uses it, reveals what reality looks like when perception is no longer distorted. This is why Jesus says elsewhere in Matthew 6, verse 22, quote, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light," unquote. The issue is not behavior. The issue is how you perceive. Jesus goes on to say that some people light a lamp and then hide it. Why would anyone do that? Because the ego is threatened by illumination. As the allegory of Adam and Eve that we discussed in previous videos so clearly shows, the ego survives through avoidance, denial, distraction, performance, image, and reputation. Light exposes all of it. In Jung's language, The lamp reveals the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've buried, rejected, or disowned. In universal law, this is the law of polarity. Light reveals darkness, not to shame it, but to integrate it. The lamp is not judgment, it is clarity. But clarity can feel similar to loss in an identity built on illusion. So we hide the lamp. We dim our own awareness. We pretend not to see what we see. This is the first resistance to awakening. Jesus ends this short parable with a mysterious line, quote, "With the measure you use, it will be measured to you, and even more," unquote. This is clearly the law of correspondence. The light you allow is the light you receive. If you open a little, you receive a little. If you open fully, you receive fully. This fully aligns with psychology, which tells us that our capacity to face reality determines our capacity to transform. It also aligns with the prophetic pattern in the Old Testament, where the more Israel opens to God, the more revelation they receive. In neuroscience, this is neuroplasticity. The brain strengthens the pathways it uses. The lamp grows brighter as you allow more light in. The lamp on a stand is not about morality, it is about visibility. You are not the lamp, you are the light within it. Ask yourself, what truth am I avoiding? What pattern am I pretending not to see? What part of me is still in shadow? What light is rising that I keep dimming? Awakening is not the arrival of light. It is the willingness to look. The lamp is already lit. The question is whether you will lift it, let it shine, let it reveal, and let it guide you home. Thanks for watching.